Yo, yeah, we got Zizi in the building, in the
What's up,
digital
everyone?
building, and we're gonna talk about anime like a bunch of weebs.
Yep.
So, yeah, if you don't know ZZ, we've actually collabed as Mike Schiff, ZZ, and Vezel. We did a song called Refraction. So, starting off, what do you want to say? How would you kind of describe your project?
I kind of keep things generally loose in terms of what I can make or what I want to make. Um, Generally, as long as it's melodically driven, or even sometimes it doesn't have to be. It's just I like bass music and I like percussion because I used to play percussion. So I just want my project to encompass all of my musical inspirations into one like mud pie of just me like expressing myself in hopefully it would sound unique in that sense because I'm pulling from a bunch of different areas and trying to give off that energy and that emotion through music. So I mean, as long as people can feel something from my music, then my project I feel is fulfilling its purpose.
So you said you play percussion. Like, did you do like snare line?
So I started off in Pitt, and when I was, or excuse me, I didn't start off there, but I transitioned there when I went from middle school to high school. I used to play clarinet, and then I did Pitt for marching band, which was for me just mallets mostly, like marimba and xylophone, and then my last year of high school, I went to the drumline for tenor drums.
That's what's up. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a big. I'm not as much of a band head as I used to be, but band was a big part of my upbringing as well. Like my dad was
Yeah.
a band director, so I was like I probably lost like so much hearing at a young age, but it was
Mhm.
just like just ga 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 ga.
Yeah.
So you said you pull from like a lot of different inspirations, like a mud pie, like
Yeah.
So how do you think anime has been brought into the fold? Like,
One of my biggest inspirations from anime are the soundtracks alone. Um, I feel like the ones that have really moving soundtracks are the ones that I generally am drawn to instantly when I first watch it. Even if there's no crazy action yet, if the soundtrack is compelling, then I'll be more inclined to continue watching. And I'd say like the most notable one that I can think of when I was really getting into anime inspiring me through music. This was before I even produced. It's called Blood Plus. Um, it used to play on Adult Swim. I want to say like how long ago was that? It was when I was in high school. That was like 10 years ago. It used to play on Adult Swim, and it's about this girl named Saya, who's twin sisters with another girl. They're both royal blood vampires of this extinct race, and their blood they have the blood that can end this like war against they're like zombie vampire creatures, but also their blood is lethal to each other.
oh
And
wow,
yeah, and the one sister is evil and then the one sister is not. So that was it was a really good plot. And there was a theme song in there called The Vampire's Threat that every time I heard it, I would go crazy because it was like it sounded like a opera that went horror movie almost.
is it
Just based.
similar
Go
to like
ahead.
Attack on Titan?
It's so Attack on Titan, I'd say has a better soundtrack overall, but it's more sinister than Attack on Titan because just the theme was less. I mean, I feel like Attack on Titan wasn't as scary as it could have been because it wasn't meant to be scary. It was just meant to be like weird, like what are those things? But in Blood Plus, they try to make the vampire threat scary, and so the songs I felt followed more along that route. And it was very eerie. Like a lot of the other tracks were kind of eerie in nature and not as epic and large as Attack on Titan. How that inspires me though is it it kind of made me want to make that exact type of feeling and emotion in my music, and so I use that as a reference now still, in terms of how I add humanization to orchestral pieces in my music.
Yeah.
Particularly because that track has a lot of forget what the word is called, but
Dynamics.
it's like it's that, but the way they were playing the notes, it's kind of like it ascends and descends, crescendo, decrescendo, kind of like it pushes and pulls like that, like it comes in and out, like it
Right.
rolls. And so doing that with electronic music is, you wouldn't really think to do that right out the gate, but here listening to that as an inspiration and having that as an inspiration was what got me into to applying that to anything that I add that's orchestral based, essentially.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
It's exciting to see like in our like dubstep world, there's so much like people are trying to be more musical and
yeah,
in a subtle sense like push and pull and stuff like that. It's
hmm
like intimidating, but it's like really exciting. It's really it's bringing a lot of life to the music.
exactly.
On the pull a lot, like make a lot more people interested for sure.
hmm
That's really cool. It's called, you said the anime is called Blood Sport or Blood Plus.
blood blood plus, and it's a plus sign. It's so it looks like just blood, but then there's a tiny little plus sign next to it. And they had a reboot called Blood C that's more recent, but I haven't watched that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give that a shot and see what. I'm not big. I don't watch a whole lot of horror anime, but I if I can
hmm
I think if I can hang with JoJo and Attack on Titan, I think I
Yeah,
should be able to be
and it yeah, and honestly, it's not like really scary, to be honest. It's more interesting. Like they just make the atmosphere seems kind of more horror-ish in terms of when the creatures are there. It's not like a constant thing. It's really actually a beautiful story for the most part, when it focuses on her family and just her in general. So like the plot itself was what made me like it. It starts off a little slow, but it picks up a little, like a quarter of the way in.
yeah, definitely gonna have to check that out. Y'all heard it here. Uh,
hmm
weebs, you otakus. I should say otaku. I've been saying weeb a lot. I think otaku is slightly more like I think weebs are usually the ones they call
yeah.
like the weeaboos or like more
We
almost derogatory. I want to say
It's
weeb.
funny though.
Yeah, but what anime did you start with?
I want to say the first anime I watched was probably either Dragon Ball. Oh no, not even Dragon Ball Z. Sailor Moon probably was the first anime that I've seen. I didn't know it was anime back at the time when I was watching it. Sailor Moon, and then Dragon Ball was one of the first ones I watched. And then Naruto, because I was reading Naruto initially when it before it became an anime, and that was like the first manga to anime adaptation that I've seen happen, and I didn't know that was a thing that Japanese manga producers do regularly. Is they put out a manga, and then they'll take a leap of faith and put out a little bit of an anime and see if people are interested, and then that can in itself fund the entire manga and anime project if it sticks, which is interesting to see. Naruto just took off after that, pretty much.
Yeah, it's usually like the big three, like Dragon Ball, Naruto, and
Yeah.
uh, maybe Pokemon or something like that. As far as just
Oh
like
yeah,
what
Pokemon
American
too. hmm
Western audiences got. I've actually got a funny enough. I don't know when. I think we'll air this after Focus, but I'm gonna be talking to Focus about Pokemon and Pokemon cards and stuff. That's gonna be real fun.
Nice.
Or actually, but but yeah, it's cool to see I thought it was interesting that you mentioned Sailor Moon. That was the first time I've heard like that kind of being somebody's first anime,
Yeah.
a Western person. Uh, from what I hear, it was one of those. I remember somebody we watched. I remember we watched Akira one time in the house.
Oh my god, I love Akira.
Yeah, that movie was like really interesting. I didn't like the art style. I like the story and I like the animation, but the actual style, it felt
I
very like
see.
grotesque in comparison. And so I was saying like I'm so used. I was saying like my young self like getting into anime. I got into anime early, but like now a lot of stuff I watch is very like kawaii looking.
Yeah, yeah,
And
you're
so
used
like
to big, sparkly.
so like and so some I was like I didn't like that. I was like I made that critique about Akira and it was like, well, it was before like Sailor Moon and stuff. I was like, okay, so I wonder was Sailor Moon kind of like this kind of turning point into like what would be the popular anime style and stuff like that.
hmm Yeah, that's a good point. And also, it's kind of funny you mentioned that because I had more of a reverse experience with Akira since I saw it so late. Like I only saw Akira about 2 years ago, and this was after I've already watched dozens upon dozens of anime. And so when I saw Akira, I was blown away by the animation, and I was already accustomed to seeing different styles to where the style came off to me as really impressive just because it was all hand drawn, but also, like your situation makes sense. You were, used to watching different styles of kawaii types, and then that does look a little. It looks more, I guess, uh, it's not as flashy
Right.
in terms of how they animate or draw the characters and how they style the characters. Some of them look kind of boring to be honest, but it's the animation itself was pretty crazy
Yeah.
and vivid.
I feel like it was like grittier. And I guess that's what I mean. That's what they're going for with the movie. I feel
Yeah,
like they almost make them a bit more grotesque as
on
well.
purpose, right?
Yeah. And so like like even the girls, I was like they kind of look mask like the girls look
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because I mean nowadays it's like they go all out pretty much. Like
yeah.
there's no confusion as to whether someone's a girl. Well, maybe not even.
Yeah, there
There's
is
some yeah there's
some anime.
some yeah that they're just like questioning like scratching your head, but
I think it's good to have like some really not every girl's gonna look like
exactly.
model or stuff. And I think it's good when a show can like have that variety.
I
Um
agree.
So yeah, we're kind of dialing it back to the music again. I think you kind of went through like your project and but how did you like? What was that first time with the doll? Like what was how did you start music?
So, funny enough, I started back in 2012, sort of, not seriously though. It was when I was in college and I was in a DJ club, radio DJ club, and I was trying to teach myself how to DJ and mix, and that was back when I was a big house head and trap head, and but mainly house, and that was what I wanted to do was like make house. My friend in the club was good at FL Studio, and so I got FL Studio and messed around with it for a bit. I want to say I messed around with it for like a year, but not seriously at all. I barely produced. It was kind of like maybe twice a month I opened it and messed with the pattern roll, and I never made anything that was quote unquote good, but it's also because I never delved into any fundamentals. I didn't know what a mixer was, a compressor was. Like I stopped producing in FL Studio like a year later just because I lost. I had no motivation to keep going because I didn't know what I was doing, and I just never really gave it uh, enough of a shot back then. So I don't really count that in terms of my production journey. It was like a couple years later, let's see, actually 5 years later, because that was back in 2012. In 2017, I was in San Diego. I had finished my military time and I had more time to devote to music, and I was serious about taking it on. So I luckily met someone on a San Diego producers page group that just had moved to San Diego from Texas, and he said that he was proficient in Ableton, and I wanted to learn Ableton. So I reached out to him, and he took the time out of his day to help me give me like a crash course, because that was what was stopping me from really learning it myself, was a learning curve, and I just thought it was kind of daunting to take on by myself. So having him give me a little crash course of like how to do really basic stuff, it was what sparked my initial interest in keeping that going from that point forward. So 2017 was when I really started my production journey. Um, And you said how was it in the DAW? It was, yeah, because of him it made it a lot easier. If it wasn't for him, I would have probably had a terrible time starting off.
And then you went to Icon, or you still go to Icon after?
So I went to Icon about 2 years into producing on my own. So I went 2019 and I finished January 2019 and finished December of 2019. So it was like a year long.
So how did you enjoy it there? Like, how was the atmosphere compared to like kind of doing it with your own with the homies and like being around a
Hmm.
bunch of people that's kind of like trying to do the same thing?
Yeah. So I actually didn't have many. I didn't actually have any, to be honest, people that I could go produce with for the longest time until Icon. Um, I only met like I want to say maybe one or two people that I would like trying to even collab with before that. I didn't have any collabs or anything. I had one in the works that never came to fruition, and then another buddy of mine, now Chassis, he was the only other person that I was working with before Icon, and um, it was so when I went to Icon, it was just like a huge uh, just a huge blessing in terms of the amount of people that you're able to interact with and just observe, and take in a lot of different techniques and different genres, especially. Um, Icon itself was the best decision I've made musically wise, and I was fortunate to have my GI Bill to pay for it because it's not cheap at all. But um, having that, assist me, and that was the only reason I even was able to go to Icon was because of GI Bill, and I want to say the biggest contribution that I've gotten there in terms of my musical journey was being able to appreciate all genres for what they are and pull from any source to inspire your music, because before that I was tunnel visioned into dubstep, and like it was EDM dubstep only, and that was all I was listening to, and my stuff was sounding like what I was listening to without me even knowing, because that's all I was subjecting myself to. But not to say that I didn't like anything else. It was just in that phase where I thought that if all I listened to was dubstep, then I'd get better. But it was the opposite. It wasn't until I gave dubstep a break at Icon and visited other genres and pulled that back. That was the point where I started to make music that I resonated with a lot more. So
That's what's up. I feel like for me it was definitely harder to like get good at dubstep because it was the technical side of stuff because
yeah,
I didn't come like
yeah.
with that mindset. I came with the mindset, let's arrange this, let's try to make something that sounds like this anime opening chord progression, this Ruby chord progression. That sounds
Yeah.
really cool. I like it. I want to just arrange it. And ain't giving no lick about like mixing and stuff about that
Hmm.
stuff like that. And so I think it's really cool to hear from your experience and how like kind of like the it was like for me the technical side was like a world that opened up after like several years of like knowing how to
Trying
do
at it. Yeah.
music and stuff like that. And that was like a whole new world learning all the technical stuff. And it's funny,
Hmm.
like for you, it's more like it seemed like it was more like learning. Probably, seemed like you learned more about like how to making different genres and how to incorporate that into your music.
And the technical stuff, I want to say most of that came after Icon when I um, was building off of what I learned, and I took a like a audio engineering course that was over Skype, but that was the teacher was all technical. And at Icon, they go over technical stuff, but they try not to make it completely that, because it stifles your creativity when you're just expanding on your own sound and you're worried about technicalities. That was a big thing for me. It was like was what impeded my initial progress. Was I was too focused on nuances that stemmed from technicalities that didn't yet understand, and so it was a lot more logical to wait and hold off on that and just make music and don't overthink it, because it's probably gonna sound decent, and then the technicalities could come later once I had like a better grasp of the concepts themselves. Like I went through all of not understanding what a compressor was really doing, even though
It's,
they gave us a definition. I was like, okay, like I still didn't get it until after, and so sometimes it just takes a while for it to sink in.
yeah, that sounds like me. Like I didn't do jack with a compressor until like I think we're getting kind of. I think we're getting kind of into the music and stuff. Hope y'all. I hope the whoever's listening to the podcast is kind of just bearing with us. We're a
Yeah.
bunch of producer nerds and everything. So, but we like anime too. So we're gonna talk about some anime stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, what anime genre is usually your go to?
Definitely action, action adventure. I like funny animes. I like them to have like a little bit of action comedy. I've watched more darker type animes like Tokyo Ghoul and what else have I watched? I was kind of like uh Sirius the Jaeger was one I started that was more dark. Um, Fantasy. I really like the fantasy genre in general. That's a better way to put it. If it's fantasy based, I'll watch it because I like the um the idea of the no limits in terms of the power of fantasy and what the abilities that can come up that can spawn from that realm of work. And I'm less into more realistic animes just because I feel like I get enough realism from regular shows in general that I go to anime for what I can't get from regular shows, and that's usually, the crazy outlandish powers and universes and all that.
So fantasy in general, like even Naruto, or would you say fantasy as in like isekai style? Like, does it include like
Um,
Naruto and Dragon Ball and stuff like that too?
yes, like Naruto, from Naruto to what's the one that like No Game No Life is the one that I started recently. Fire Force, My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan. I've considered that action fantasy. Um, anything like I'm a sucker for action, like the action sequences. If those are good in terms of their pacing and the fluidity of the animation, then I'll instantly just watch the anime. I don't really like the ones that are kind of more choppy, I guess is a better way to put it.
Yeah.
It's not as fluid of fighting and of animation. Like even Naruto is guilty of that when in their important sequences when they're just kind of like running through the forest. It's really just like and it's not as you know but they'll have their scenes where they go off like the pain fight, and that was probably the craziest animation I've seen in Naruto. And yeah, as long as the action is very detailed and fluid, I'll generally watch the anime.
I got you. Sounds good. That's kind of like me, especially starting out. I've started flowing more into like being like in slice of life and stuff like that more and romantic stuff because like I would like in certain shows would kind of splice that in like certain animes would kind of splice in like a
Yeah, that's
romance
true.
or
Like a love
slice
story.
the episode of Dragon Ball when they get the driver and stuff like that. Like be like, Goku, you driving the car, you got this guy who can fly, and he just gotta learn. he,
Yeah, what are you doing in that car, bro?
so but I do love a good action scene. I think I'll take them for granted now because they've gotten so good, especially like Jujutsu.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna like function like see any show that like any I think it's really rose the bar as far as like the consistency they have for
What shows? Or
uh,
just animes in general?
or in general, but as far as action,
Oh, Jujutsu Kaisen. Okay,
yeah,
that's on my list to start. I saw a couple clips from that. I haven't seen anime that gets the camera perspective angle like that to a T like they've done it. And that alone was what made me interested in watch and like getting started on that one. Crazy animation and fight scenes. You're right. I don't. They set the bar pretty high.
yeah, it is every episode hits like it's ridiculous.
Ooh.
It's scary because like how you gonna top this? How you gonna continue this? Like this, that's a
Yeah.
lot of like there's a lot of hot, like it's scary. Like even as a producer, I feel like it's scary. Like when you do something like if you was able to drop like must die bangers all
Oh
the
my
time,
god,
and
you
then but
must
you then
die.
and then it would be so much anxiety and stuff about like trying to like make sure you keep it or even stopping
Yeah.
yourself. And so like
Uh,
it's crazy. So it is yeah, I think it's possible for Jujutsu at or in it or shows like that now to have some down moments, but I think no being my experience as a creator, I think this I'm a probably try to be a lot more graceful, give a lot more grace for that, um,
mhm.
and know that they have that they have that banger fight
Yeah.
in the pocket, even if they're chilling or if it's kind of like as long as they keep that
Exactly.
same studio, I know, or at least a good studio still pick if they as long as they have good studios. But like the One Punch Man debacle, that was like that really kind of turned a lot of people off.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that that happened to turn people off too because it that studio didn't really have much time to turn around and get that season kicked out, and so I understood on that point why the animation wasn't up to par with season one, and I kind of looked past it as best as I could, which I did. Like I enjoyed the season for what it was, but it definitely was a drop off in terms of animation versus the first one. The sound design, but funnily enough, my friend kept pointing out that the sound design was on point in season two of One Punch Man, and he was right. Like the fight scenes had way cooler sound design, so I guess they had a lot of time to get that added in, but it's not most people don't really notice that.
Yeah, I need to start. It's surprising I don't really notice that a lot myself. Yeah, I do. I don't even notice the music a whole lot of times. I just know it's there.
Yeah.
I just know, like, if it's real good, I'll probably hum it later, or I'll be expecting it during the scene while I'm thinking about the
Mhm.
anime or something. I'm like, oh, here comes OST, run away from the dragon or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like da 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 da, some tone or something like that. You know it when you hear it,
Exactly.
but I don't like. I never, I don't like pay it. It's a more subconscious than it is conscious. Surprisingly, for a
Yeah,
person that's like
it's very true.
interested in like music. Any games you play like as far as like to unwind or just
So I used to be a huge gamer before I started Icon, and I would sink hours upon hours into Naruto Ninja Storm and
uh
Destiny. Like I know life those two games pretty absurdly. And so but when I was starting Icon, I made myself give up my PlayStation just because I didn't want any distractions. And so throughout the year, I still played in games here and there, but it was at friends' houses. Like, so it was Super Smash Bros. Or Overwatch, and I would play those regularly at their houses, but I wouldn't get my own console. And that kind of weaned me off of my gaming addiction because I used to be pretty addicted to it. So now I still appreciate gaming and I have a love for it, but I don't have a need for it anymore. Like I used to need video games to as an outlet, and now it kind of just shifted to I mean, music obviously is an outlet, but it's I'm more interested in art now is my outlet than video games because my graphic design classes has got me so interested in learning more aspects about editing and creating cool composites and this learning the whole 3D side of thing as well is I'm trying to kick that off and learn some 3D modeling and whatnot. And so that's been my main outlet.
it's cool that you kind of have something that you can work with. Some people make they make a living off of video or part-time video games and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
But like I was there was one thing with me, like with music helped me too. I had like I was just like I said, if the only way I was gonna get into something like electronic dance music was through video games, and I was a big gamer as a young kid. I just spent a lot more time playing video games
Hmm.
than I do now. I have that one or two games that pop up every now and then. It's just like this is super fun, especially like
Hmm.
when I played like Rainbow Six later with when I had a bunch of friends I played that with, and that was real kind of low key competitive and frustrating.
Mhm.
It made me want to like be better. So
Yeah.
I sunk a lot of time into that at one period of time. Like I feel like music, like Peruson helped me out, kind of like get a better balance with that, and like
Nice.
but I also feel like at the same time, like having to like learn about branding and like trying to do other avenues. Like this podcast is like it makes it hard to like
Mhm.
relax for me nowadays. Like if I want
Yeah.
to play
Yeah.
anime, like a lot, I spend a lot more of my like recreation outside of music. I kind of want to get back to a point where I think of music as a recreation too, even though I'm trying to make a like
Mhm.
a living or income from it. Like I want to get back to where I don't think about it's because it's like this weird work and recreation hybrid for me. And sometimes a lot of times I think of it as work. Um, even though
Yeah.
I found those pockets of time where I'm like I'm really glad I'm a producer,
Mhm.
but now I'm trying to kind of like give it a spot where I can be more relaxed in that aspect as well, and but also like also be able to relax when I'm playing video games or watching TV and not just be worried about oh
Exactly.
somebody's out there designing sound designing like this crazy bass and it's like they're making a whole nother genre. If I don't check Twitter, like I'll be like 3 seasons behind on like the dubstep of the dubstep trends. And it's just like,
Facts.
but it could be fun, and anything like video games and music production, they could be real good, positive things, and they could be toxic. And I
Yep.
think sometimes a lot of people like to blame objects for certain things, or anime too. So it could be positive or toxic for
Mhm.
you. And at a particular time and place, sometimes you just have to learn yourself and learn and sometimes you'll find like ways you're guided, people, friends, a higher power god or somebody like kind of get you
Yeah.
into a balance of things into a better outlet as you say.
Like how I guess it affects you in a certain way is like you can balance the the goods and side and bad side of uh of
Right,
video games and yeah.
things you enjoy,
Yeah.
like it can take a toxic or positive part of your life, and a lot of people,
Yeah.
like I said, a lot of people like to blame the object, but it's sometimes it's just a person has to grow. I think that's where I was going.
Exactly.
A
I
person
think
just
it's
grows.
I think it's always that, to be honest. Like, I mean, to an extent, like some things you're shown, like, well, no, I do truly believe it's always that, because even if you're shown something that affects you in a certain way, it's still affecting you that way because of your current uh area and level of where you are in terms of growth. Like if you were to show a scary that Momo chick, for example, that was floating around, that was scaring kids. That was obviously scaring a bunch of kids because they were younger, they didn't know any better. But like, if someone showed me Momo, I was like, okay, like get that out of my face. It's not scary.
Glad to try
So
better.
yeah, let's try again. But that's a good point you brought up. It's a lot of people do like to blame the object, and I think a lot of that is going on in the scene right now in terms of where people are finding sources of disapproval, like the cancel culture and all that. It's like people are very very ready with their pitchforks to just nail something, and it's just like you can't just be sitting there ready to just incriminate people on like a drop of a hat. Like you should have to have something better to do, and plus that doesn't give you energy, like good energy. If you're constantly looking to cancel people, you're gonna be a pretty bitter person, being
Right.
mad at someone for whether or not they deserve to be canceled. You're still fueling yourself with that energy of of being feeling upset about what they did, and if that's all you're feeling regularly, then it's gonna rub off into your everyday activities and your persona. And I would rather focus on things that empower me with positivity, optimism, because I don't like to feel negative and bitter. Like I don't think anyone likes that, but people get used to it and they forget what it's like to not have to deal with that, and what how much energy that they conserve when they're not stressed out. over something petty.
It's been really good having you here. I really enjoyed this conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. That was I appreciate that.
And I hope y'all enjoyed this episode too. We just kind of went from music, anime, games,
Yeah.
philosophy. But but yeah, like I hope y'all enjoyed this, and y'all have a good day.